Our speaker today is Valerie Clote, who will speak about relaxing into the new earth energies, harmonics of the flow state. Valerie has a bachelor's degree in geology. From an early age, she was a student of metaphysics and yearned to know more about the mechanics and of the nature of reality. Currently, she enjoys combining her interests in yoga, meditation, spirituality as a laughter yoga teacher. 2011, after experiencing the power of play through the unconventional activity of intentional and unconditional laughter as exercise, an entirely new world opened up for her. And as a newly published author, she shares playful deep breathing activities in her first book, Happy Breathing. Please welcome Valerie. Want a table for your computer?
Right there.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Good.
Hi. Test 1, 2. How's everyone doing today?
Good.
Good. Thanks for coming. Let's see. Started. All right. So, so relaxing into new earth energies, harmonics of the flow state. And I really want to thank you for this opportunity to speak on what fascinates my soul, not just my mind, but my very essence. As most of you know by now, that my fascination is in understanding the mechanics of the nature of reality. And at least to the point in time of what we know now. This is an evolution in itself. This discussion is based more on some of the information that I have come to understand pertaining to the nature of reality and some new ideas and information for me. So I'll be sharing just an introduction to some of these expansive ideas, as I don't know the full details myself.
Excuse me, could you speak a little louder?
Yeah.
Sure.
Try that.
I tend to be a All right, so I can move back a little. I tend to be a scanner for information. That is, I clean information across a wide spectrum and see how it all fits together. Then if more details are needed, I can dive into that. So, and of course, I'll bring in information on laughter as well and how all this pertains to laughter. Then at the end, we will do an inner smile meditation. So during these times of transition, there is a great influx of new ideas and new ways of thinking, as there must be, so that we can move to the next stage of evolution. This also requires new ways of being, out with the old and in with the new, extremely uncomfortable. I was here for the speaker on April 23rd, who was Tanaya. Is that how you say her name? She spoke of listening for the sound of the genuine. Just those words are soothingly poetic. Listening for the sound of the genuine. She asked a few questions on what that means to us and how do we know when we are there. For me, the idea of the sound of the genuine brought up the idea of the flow state. And I had already decided to speak about the flow state for today. So I thought I would bring the two ideas together for this introduction. For me, the flow state and listening for the sound of the genuine bring up the feeling state of authentic grace, an authentic state of being. We all know when we are there, but she asked, how do we know? Most often for me, it's a wordless state. You can't put words into it. It's a feeling state of just being, a state of pure awareness, which is really our authentic self. Now, upon first glance, the flow state may sound a bit more active, and it can be when applied to athletes. But listening to the sound of the genuine is also active, though these two ideas may be of different degrees of activity. But I can also experience the flow state in meditation. So the flow state is really a state of being, a state of awareness, whether bringing it into the physical or not. And as I continue to learn and grow into these concepts myself, I feel that being able to stay in flow for longer periods of time is developed through conscious awareness. Now, what exactly is the flow state? I equate the flow state with the bliss state. Whether it's called flow or bliss, the same neurotransmitters are activated. Anandamide is one such neurotransmitter, and I spoke of this before. Ananda being Sanskrit for bliss, and which binds to the THC receptor sites. Dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, and endorphins are also activated. And for the record, intentional and unconditional laughter activates all of these neurotransmitters as well, and then some. These neurotransmitters do many things, but here are just some highlights. Dopamine, often called the feel-good hormone, is released in a reward system, such as fulfilling a craving or checking emails. It increases attention and focus and pattern recognition. Serotonin has an effect on our mood and sense of well-being. Norepinephrine triggers a glucose response, so we have more energy for action and focused attention. Endorphins relieve pain and stress. Athletes, musicians, artists, writers, and other creators, such as laughers, find themselves in this flow state when focus and creativity merge. And I can attest to this. That is probably one of the main reasons why I love unconditional laughter so much. Or if you enjoy cooking or gardening, you can be in the flow state. Time becomes non-existent and you are very much in the now. Intuitively, this state of being in flow allows one to get out of the thinking mind and allows for awareness of the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is connected to all that is infinite intelligence, the quantum field, or whatever else you wish to call it, the ether, where all information lives. And in this flow state, often inspiration will come, insights into solving problems, and expanded creativity can happen. In this flow state, we are able to express ourselves from our ideal moment to moment. Now, if everyone can do this all the time, then we would have no conflict. Someone had asked Dr. Bruce Lipton, the father of epigenetics, what if everyone followed their bliss? And his answer was, we would have a blissful world. Pretty simple. So I think that's why Laughter Yoga International's mission statement is world peace through laughter. So my question is, how do we utilize this information for the betterment of ourselves and others? This information about how the nature of reality works in conjunction with our subconscious mind, the conscious mind, projection, paradoxes, and the body as internal soft technology operating in this atmosphere of fluidity of energy. You've heard it before. Everything is energy. Everything is frequency, vibration, and harmonics. It is all in constant motion. That is why having an intuitive understanding of fluid mechanics or wave mechanics can be helpful. Consequently, the flow state of being is one of our most natural ways of being. The challenge in these times is how can we live more in this flow state in everyday ordinary life? So just relaxing does a lot. A deep breath and purposely relaxing at any time, anywhere. You can just tell your body to relax and it will. We can do that right now. So sit comfortably, allow for a deep belly breath, and relax. You can speak to different body parts. Relax the shoulders and the arms. Relax the breath. Relax the back and the spine. Relax the legs and the feet and the toes and the nose. And there you have it. Your body is relaxed. Now allow for another deep belly breath. Enjoy. Relaxation triggers the parasympathetic nervous system for rest and digest. You begin to access the same brainwave states that are in the flow state, that is alpha and theta. And something that I find fascinating about wave mechanics, at least in the ocean, is that it's not one wave or a series of waves that actually move. What appears to be one wave in motion across the surface of the water is not the case. What is happening is that there's a transfer of energy between the water particles, so that technically there's very little horizontal movement of the water particles. It's a transfer of energy within the water as it propagates across the surface of the ocean. So it looks like the same bundle of water is moving, but in fact it's not. It's the energy, the transfer of energy. This also happens in electricity. Electricity is a transfer of charge or energy between the electrons moving along the wire instead of a constant stream of movement of electrons within the wire, as we have often in the past thought that was the way it was going. So according to physicist Ms. Harriman's unified field theory, we live in the fluidity of ether. So might something like this also be happening? Say, as I move my hand through the air or ether, could it be just a transfer of energy between the particles? It's just a thought. After all, we do live in 99.9999% space. And here's another thought. Nassem's work brings up the idea that 3D objects are not in space, but instead emerging from space. The mechanics could be something similar to biology, getting its information from the morphogenic field. A very different way of perceiving the world around us. These ideas help us to open up to and gain different perspectives and possibilities. The flow state also helps with this in that it opens lateral thinking, seeing many different perspectives of an issue at the same time. You just don't want to get stuck in that mode, which creates overthinking. So I just came back from a trip to Asheville, North Carolina. In a gift shop, I saw a coffee mug which said, "Wait, let me overthink this." And I had to laugh because this is actually where I love to live, seeing different perspectives of the world at the same time. For those of you that don't know, we just had full moon Scorpio on Friday and an eclipse. So energies have been quite intense. Scorpio is known for diving deep into the underworld of emotions, very intense and very serious. Eclipses are times of transformation, renewal, and growth, and the energy from eclipses can last up to 6 months. So I bring this up because these are additional energies affecting us at this time, besides just this natural monumental increase of frequencies having to do with earth energies and earth changes. So how many of you are experiencing some big changes now?
We could all stand up.
And can relate or feel into the situations to sense that there might be a higher purpose of letting go of certain relationships, circumstances, or ways of being that no longer serve. And I'm also curious, how many of you knew that something like this was to happen in your lifetime? So there's a few, yeah. So this is part of the shift into these higher frequencies that are coming in at this 25,000 year cycle. And can you feel the intensity of these contractions and then expansions of these waves of higher frequencies? It's as if the earth is giving birth to the new, literally. And, you know, somewhere I read God is pressure. And I certainly have been feeling the pressure. I myself am going through significant changes. And when I remember and realize that this is a natural process, that my life, my perspectives, my beliefs, and my body must go through to harmonize with the increasing energies, I'm better able to relax into acceptance and flow. And some of you may be better well-versed in this process than I. Even though I know what's happening, it still can be very challenging. It seems the faster I can relax and let go, align with the new and go with the flow, the easier it is all the way around. It comes back to a state of being non-resistant and becoming the observer when you can. So some of this information and process correlates to information also found in the book, The Gene Keys by Richard Rudd. Currently, I'm in a group that is studying gene keys. I had brought this up in my first presentation about earth changes. His 55th gene key describes what a version of the new earth may be like and what changes we can expect. If you're interested, there is this chapter on his website, which you can read or you can listen to him read it. Basically, the Gene Keys is a system for contemplation to gain greater self-knowledge, and much of the premise has to do with working through the frequencies of ways of being. These ways of being are described as the shadow, the gift, the divine gift, or what the author calls the city. So from lower states of being, say survival, to the higher states, which are more conscious towards enlightenment. Now, he describes this working through the shadow to the gift to the city as moving through frequencies. And this in turn affects our biology, our genes, our DNA, and the amount of light that is able to be processed and assimilated by our DNA, which he says is a superconductor. So I didn't quite know exactly what a superconductor was, so I looked it up, and this is what I found. A superconductor is a material that has no electrical resistance and does not allow magnetic fields to penetrate. An electric current in a superconductor can persist indefinitely. So I'm not sure about the magnetic field not being able to penetrate. Typically, when you have an electric field, the magnetic field is perpendicular. But what did catch my attention was that the current can persist indefinitely. So might our DNA receive even more information on a continual basis from the light at these higher frequencies? So these are very real evolutionary times. The human being is literally evolving into the new human
And there are different terms for this. Homo spiritus by David Hawkins and the possible human by Jean Houston are just two such terms. Dr. David Hawkins was one of the first people to create an understanding of relative frequencies relating to emotions with his map of consciousness. This map of consciousness relates relative lower emotional states such as guilt and shame to higher emotional states such as peace and enlightenment. So it's funny, when I gave a talk to Noetics recently in the Q&A afterward, someone had asked why we would want to release guilt and shame as they serve a purpose. Well, they do serve a purpose. One purpose they serve is to stay in the loop of guilt, repent. However, I feel that they are also indicators to move out of a state so that they may serve to be a bouncing off place. But if that's where you like to live, they serve a purpose, no problem. Usually remaining in such a state serves the purpose of remaining in victim mentality. And so then you can assume the responsibility is out of your hands. However, typically with guilt and shame, there's no flow, there's no thriving. It's more of a stuck energy in these lower vibratory states. If one stays there long enough in this bandwidth, then disease and illness can set in. They also reinforce the idea of separateness. So I want to read a passage about guilt from a Course in Miracles teacher, Nuke Sanchez. She says, "My problems have already been solved because I am guiltless. Only my mistaken guilt can cause the appearance of problems. Guilt is the secret wish for punishment in the forms of conflict, sickness, pain, loss, depression, lack, etc." So from my point of view too, is that much of these lower states of being have been epigenetically passed down to us from our ancestors. That is to say, the parents' experiences in the form of epigenetic tags can be passed down to future generations, which brings up the idea that some of these emotional states are not our fault. Though they may not have come from us, we do not need to play the victim role. I believe that we are here charged with the task of purification, and that allows for the final release of these lower states of being in the collective as we evolve into the next phase of humanity in these higher frequencies. So Dr. David Hawkins' work and Richard Rudd's work seem to support each other's ideas in relating emotions to a frequency, and they are not alone. The HeartMath Institute and Dr. Joe Dispenza are among others that bring this awareness to our internal technology. That brings up something or someone that I have recently discovered, a new scientist for me. Though he has been doing his work for more than 30 years, his name is Dan Winter, and he's an electrical engineer by training and trade. He is the one that actually taught the HeartMath people and got them started on understanding the harmonics of the heart-brain coherence, though you never hear about him from them. So I wanted to at least recognize his part into what the HeartMath Institute does, and they no doubt do fabulous work. So what was discovered was that the harmonics of the heart-brain coherence are frequencies of the golden mean, a mathematical cascade of frequencies that harmonize. These frequencies that are activated in the brain are ratios of the golden mean. It's a whole brain activity that is harmonized and coherent, where all parts are speaking to each other and getting along. This is where the bliss state and the flow state come in. As we are electrical beings, we operate on frequencies which come from our state of being. Our state of being comes from the emotions, feelings, and thoughts that we inhabit. This is our soft technology. And we live in a feedback loop system. So we know by the information that we receive if we are in a state of being where we wish to be. Do you feel peaceful, calm, grounded? Are you angry, impatient, frustrated? So Dan Winter's information on spiritual science brings in an eloquent perspective of the electrical aspect in wave mechanics, the physics of consciousness, and fractals, and much, much more. If you're at least in the least bit interested in this kind of stuff, I highly recommend you check out his YouTube channel. He brings in charge density, the idea of implosion, which is the bliss state, the nesting of fractals, and negative entropy, which we have been taught in thermodynamics that only entropy happens as a natural process where everything breaks down from order to chaos. Dan Winter has a recent book on negative entropy. This was a concept originally introduced by Erwin Schrödinger in the 1940s. Erwin Schrödinger was a physicist and Nobel Prize winner, known as the father of quantum physics. The concept is simple. If entropy is order moving into chaos, then negative entropy, or better known as negentropy, is chaos moving into order. And entropy produces heat. So negentropy produces cold. In the body, this heat correlates to inflammation, and perhaps the cold relates to healing capacities that can happen with ice baths and cold showers. Hence the Iceman or Wim Hof, if you're familiar with his breathing techniques. So to be truthful, I've only just been introduced to this concept myself, so I'm not familiar with the details. However, since I love to live in lateral thinking, one idea is that this is what happens in spontaneous healings, or even in meditation. There's a natural reordering of the system when given an opportunity to heal. Oftentimes, people bring in the concept of 0 point for coherence and healing. And that has to do with the 0 point being the lowest energetic point in the quantum system. So again, a reordering is available. Because in Nassim Haramehn's work in the unified field theory, there is an understanding that gravity and the vacuum are constantly exchanging energy or information in the ether on all scales. Now, if they are constantly exchanging energy, then there's a constant refresh rate. Disease is allowed to release and new vibrancy is allowed to regenerate. Aside from Dan Winter's electrical engineering background, he was also involved in psychophysiology. This is a branch of psychology that is concerned with the physiological basis of the psychological processes. He was one of the first to get biofeedback data having to do with the understanding that fear and anger have an electrical signature. Again, here we are with emotional states bringing on a frequency. Also, something of interest is something called vibravision, or what Dan calls kids that can see without their eyes. So people are being trained to see vibrationally, seeing with their third eye, literally seeing with their third eye. They're blindfolded and can ride bikes, read books, see colors. It's called vibravision, and it's out of Ogden, Utah. They train kids and adults, though adults take longer to learn to see without their eyes. This is something that I would love to learn how to do. So Dan Winter collected data from some of these kids that can see without their eyes. He found that their brainwave state is in the golden ratio harmonics, which is the same brainwave state that happens in heart-brain coherence and bliss state. But these kids also have an octave ratio harmonics going on at the same time, which has to do with constructive and destructive interference patterns, which can explain the vision of objects. So in closing, the flow state allows for higher frequencies to be sustained at longer periods of time because of the sense of well-being. This helps to ground and stabilize the physical body as well as the mental and emotional bodies. We go from surviving to thriving and allowing creativity to expand as our consciousness expands. A time to live lighthearted and open to growth. As we continue to increase in the frequencies, even greater adaptations are needed to maintain our continuity in some manner. This means a lot of letting go and releasing what cannot be sustained in these higher states of being. So we go from living in a world that is happening to me to living in a world that is happening for me, to living in a world that is happening through me. And this follows the energy as described in Richard Rudd's Gene Keys as the shadow, the gift, the divine gift, or the city. We graduate into oneness through individuation, which serves the collective. It's like spokes in a wheel. Everyone is needed to make the wheel go round. A new paradigm is building as individuals create from their heart center. So here's a quote from Lao Tzu, which sums up things nicely. Those that flow as life flows knows they need no other force. So we have time for a quick inner smile meditation. Okay. All right, you can begin by getting comfortable in your chair. Close your eyes and allow for deep belly breaths. Now, bring to mind something or someone that makes you smile. Pretend they are in front of you and you smile to them with your eyes. Now, allow that smile to enter into the third eye in the middle of your brain. You can envision a big smiley face in the center of your head if you like. Keep smiling in your third eye while you bring down a smile to the back of your throat. Your mouth is filled with the energy of smiles. Continue down your throat through the center of your torso with a stream of smiling energy. While in this inner area of your torso, send smiling things to the organs of your body. The thyroid, the thymus, the heart, the spleen, the liver, the small intestines, and the large intestines, the stomach, the bladder, the kidneys, and the adrenals. A big, heartfelt, smiling thank you for all the work that they do. As your torso is filled with this smiling energy, continue across to the shoulders, the arms, the wrists, the hands, the fingers. And as your body is being filled with even more smiling energy, send more smiles down to the hips, the pelvis, the feet, the toes. And then run this smiling energy all the way from the crown of your head through your body to the feet, and then out the soles of your feet to the center of the earth. In this way, you are cleansing your entire being with smiling energy and grounding into the earth. Now, complete the circuit and bring this smiling energy up from the earth to the top of your head and continue as before. We are creating and circulating a smiling aura around us within and around us. And in your bloodstream, you can envision little smiley faces all through your arteries, your veins, your capillaries. Everyone's happy inside. So savor this healing, smiling energy. And when you're ready, slowly open your eyes. So I do hope that I introduced some new ideas and some new ways of perceiving the world, and perhaps some ways to begin to integrate these new frequencies. I'm so grateful to be able to share some of this information where my heart loves to live. Thanks so much for listening.
Just all together. The three of them. Maybe quietly. Now there's love on earth and it has begun with me. Now there is love on earth, a love that was meant to be. With all our relations, loved ones all are we. Now I walk with my family in perfect harmony. Love has become with me, and this is the moment now. With every breath I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in love eternally. Now there is love on earth, and it has begun with me. We are the light, the love, and the presence. Wherever we are, love is, and all is well. Yummy vibe we got going on. Oh, yes. And next week we'll have Diane.
Listen.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Love you.
Thank you, Jenny.
There's food upstairs, I believe. There's food upstairs.
Yes.